Okay, good evening. Today is March 9th, 2017. We're at the Violet Avenue School. This is the Hyde Park Central School District's Board of Education meeting. May I have a motion to enter executive session to discuss confidential matters pertaining to CSEA grievance, HPTA MOA, and personnel items, please?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? We're now in executive session. Thank you for being patient, for running a little bit over. At this time, may I have a motion to return to open session, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There are no agenda modifications for tonight. May I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda as listed?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That brings us to Pride. James, what do you got for us tonight?
Okay. So this past Monday, our spring sports have officially kicked off. Myself participating in spring track, I saw a lot of kids show up for the sport. And I believe we had around 120 kids that signed up and started this Monday. The crew, boys and girls crew season has started, has been going on I think for a few weeks now. And I know that they're training hard, preparing for their competitions. Our boys tennis team also began practice this Monday, and they had a lot more boys than I think than they did last year, so it's pretty great. And baseball, along with boys and girls lacrosse, started this Monday as well. And softball, I think, started this week. And this past Tuesday, March 7th? Yeah, this past Tuesday on March 7th, FDR's very own First Ladies a cappella group sang the national anthem at a ceremony that was revealing 10 new U.S. postage stamps. And I think it's pretty fantastic that our school group has been called to serve in the community the way that they did. And this weekend, our drama students are going to be providing us with a great performance of Once Upon a Mattress. It's a musical. And I've heard it's a pretty good show, although I wasn't able to see it today. I did ask a couple of my friends that were in attendance, and they said that it was pretty fantastic. And
It was quite good. It was quite good. The senior citizens loved it. The sixth graders were there. The auditorium was full, put it this way. There weren't any empty seats, so it was, and it was very well received.
Yeah, it must have been great. So yeah, so they're going to be showings tomorrow night at 7 p.m., Saturday at 7 p.m., and on Sunday at 2 p.m. I think it's a great way to spend a night.
Great.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. You got any other?
Yeah,
comments?
just a couple. This past Friday night was our STEM/STEAM fair. It was the first time we actually incorporated the arts into the STEM fair. So I know we've been looking at that for a while, and it was nice to have that first wave of incorporation. I left my sheet at home. We have the science fair winners. We had, I think it was over 30 high school volunteers to come and help out for the night. Many of our teachers, but having that many students, I know a number of board members were able to get there, Mike, myself, Doug, Denise. It was just great it's a great evening for the students, and it was a good turnout. So we'll be publishing on the website the science fair winners and acknowledging the number of student volunteers.
Is it on the website yet? No?
I'm not sure. I didn't see it yet.
I'm not seeing it, okay.
We'll get that up there. Only because I attended and was invited to do an activity, but Ralph R. Smith had their annual Read Aloud Day in honor of Dr. Seuss. So there were activities throughout the whole day, and the only competition I had was Rick Wirt was reading, How Did I Become a Pirate book, and making a lot of noise in the other half of the cafeteria, so his voice was a little louder than mine, but it was a great day and really well organized.
Right. And any other board members have any pride? No? Denise, you're proud. I know you're proud.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud, but I've been monopolized by the play, so please come and see it this weekend. You won't be disappointed. We saw a sneak peek today. It was fantastic. Stop
All
that.
right. Do we got anything else with the superintendent's report?
Nothing than the formal reports that are on the board agenda.
Well, that brings us to what we've all been waiting for, the Violet Avenue presentation.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to have you here this evening. All right, so this is our 2017 presentation. Welcome to Violet Avenue. It's nice to have everybody here this evening. First, I wanted to start with our mission statement and our motto. Our mission statement is that we are a diverse, caring community that's dedicated to excellence, and then we are daring to be awesome, as you see on our lanyards and our sign outside. That is a building leadership team initiative that we started to create a building mission in Vado. So we've definitely been trying to promote that on letterhead and other forms of media. So there it is. So my first slide is on our data. This is we have two slides on data. The first is on our ELA assessments from last year. So I'm happy to report a general synopsis is that we have improved from the year prior in almost all areas. And definitely cohort to cohort, we have again made improvements to our data and are above in just about every area compared to the district-wide average. So I'm happy to report that we continue to make growth each year in both ELA and math. And you'll see the same trend in our math data for grades 3 through 8. We have improvements every year, and I did break it down with levels 2, 3, and 4, and just levels 3 and 4, because I know we've talked about that in the past when they made the change to the Common Core assessments. So there's a breakdown to both of those, and definitely is represented of all of the hard work that teachers have been doing in both ELA and math and continue to do here in the building. To keep that going, our instructional next steps is we continue to work on our Common Core instruction in both reading and writing. We are continuing to work on the workshop model in our classrooms as we're implementing both a reading and writing workshop model in our classrooms. We have continued support in the units of study. We started 2 years ago with the writing units of study, and now we're currently working on our reading units of study for the workshop model. We have several book studies that we're doing this year, and that's just helping us with professional practice. So we have various groups that are getting together for book studies. Our reading teachers and I have been doing a book study on reading and teaching reading in small groups, which has been really informative. We're also working on a reading strategies book, and Kim Neisel has asked us to work on a math talks book for grades 3 through 5. So that's something we'll be purchasing and working on later in the school year. We continue to benefit from Generation Ready. There are consultants that come in and support the work that we're doing in literacy, and our use of technology continues. We're looking forward to the additions in technology that we'll have soon through the grant, the Smart Bond grant. We're looking forward to that enhanced technology as well soon. And we continue to work with Sanctuary. VETIS continues to work, but this year has been doing work in the classrooms, directly supporting teachers and students, which has been a nice addition to the full staff training that we had last year. Our building leadership team goal this year has been to promote our building a little bit. Dr. Rychek, it was a wonderful suggestion that she made that we share a little bit more about what we do every day, so that the public can see it and our parents can see it and our kids can see it. So we created a school Twitter account to publicize both our social and our academic events within the building. We have quite a few tweets and we're growing in followers every month. So I encourage you, I did put our Twitter page there if you want to sign up so that you can see what's happening in the school. We're really trying to use it to promote events in the classroom, events in the building, not just making an announcement that tonight's a PTA meeting, but that we're really sharing what's going on in the classrooms to give parents a glimpse, and you, if you sign up, a glimpse of what's happening in the building. For character education, we continue to have Second Step as our character education program that's available in the building. The building also does a lot with community service. Various grade levels have taken on things that have been important to them and raising money and sharing awareness about different causes. We have our classroom-based community building. We're also lucky that we have TCIS and the Zones of Regulation, which are two programs that support our kids in their social emotional awareness and regulation.
Can you just say what the acronyms are for?
Yes.
The TCIs?
Yes, TCIS is Therapeutic Crisis Intervention in Schools. Yeah, so it's just supporting kids' social emotional health. Zones of Regulation is all about kids understanding how they're feeling, and when they're not feeling in their good green zone, is what we would call it, ready to learn. If they're feeling in the blue zone, so they might be sleepy or tired or feeling a little sad that day for some reason, that they have tools and they know how to deal with that. Or if they're feeling a little yellow and they're a little overly excited, or maybe they're having a hard time or they had a tough morning. It's all about tools where you can learn to be in your optimal learning stance all throughout the day. So it's about teaching into that for kids so that they understand and what they can do to help themselves. So we also worked, I mentioned already, with B, so we continue our work with Sanctuary. And then we also just recently had a presentation with GLSEN. So I know that they came and you benefited at a board meeting from their presentation, and we have done a school-based training, which was similar to the conversation that you had at a board meeting, to help us support kids in that way as well.
Excuse me, what is Sanctuary?
Sanctuary is a trauma-based education model. So it again is about supporting kids and understanding how experiences that children have can impact the way that they learn and the way that they approach school.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Bea is wonderful if you ever get an opportunity to meet us. She's our head trainer and she's wonderful and has a great perspective on kids. So for activities in the building, again, this year we had our harvest night. We do that in October, November. Again, our haunted house is the favorite event of the kids downstairs. We have the haunted hallway. So it was, again, very well attended. We have most of our families come out for the event, so it's nice to have everybody here. We, again, the day before Christmas break, had winter workshops where the kids got to engage in enrichment activities and craft activities for the day before going off to Christmas break. We continue our relationship with Fairview and fire prevention. We, again, raised money this year for UNICEF. We have district pen pals with Netherwood. And we've continued that relationship. We've done food bank donations, has been some of the community service that the kids have done. This year for PARP, every year for PARP, we've been lucky to bring in real-life authors and some well-known authors to work with our kids and teach them what it's like to live a reading and writing life. So it's a nice enrichment opportunity. This year we had Nick Bruhl, who wrote the Bad Kitty books. I don't know if you've ever seen them. There's some chapter books and picture books. And then Dale Christopher, who is the son of Matt Christopher, who has written a lot of sports-related books for kids. So the kids really enjoy that opportunity. We had full assemblies so the kids could learn from the author. And then we also did some small group lunch sessions where the kids got to go and have lunch with the author and ask questions and kind of more of a dialogue about ideas for writing, ideas for reading, a lot of questions asking them how they get their ideas and what was their favorite book and their favorite character and how did they decide what to write. So it was a nice opportunity for our kids. WRWD has come in. We had our science fair, and I'll give away one result from the science fair. One of our fifth graders was third place in the district science fair. He was so excited. There's a picture of him in the office on the counter. He let me borrow the trophy, but only for a few hours, and had to take it home with him. So I was allowed to take a picture of him with the trophy, but I couldn't keep the trophy on display because he was too excited. And then there was also some of the science fair projects that they completed in the library where you had dinner. And then we've had our book fair and book swap like we've had every year with the help of our PTA. Some other parental and community involvement. We continue, as I said, with Fairview and Town of Poughkeepsie Police Department are a great support to us, help us provide training for both kids and staff. Working with the local food pantry, UNICEF. We have several volunteer readers, including Mr. Heater, who comes every Friday. We still participate in the grandparent program. We have 3 grandparent volunteers in our building daily. Our IBM Engineering Week, which we just recently had, which was a nice way to provide some enrichment in engineering, which is the kids love. Our coat drive, and we have a tremendous partnership with Marist College. This year, we are working with them as their lab site for now, not only Reading 3, but they're reading 2 courses here as well. They're reading 3 course, about 12 student teachers, and 50-ish campus ministry. So there are some days where you think you might be in a Marist hallway instead of Violet Avenue, but the kids are definitely benefiting greatly from all of the small group instruction, the mentoring that the kids provide, and I also know that the Marist kids are really benefiting from working with our fabulous teachers. And that's it. Are there any questions that you have for me about Violet Avenue or what we're working on?
Anybody, any questions?
Anybody?
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, thank you so much.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Treadwell. Now, based on the high number of slides, I was just curious how you're going to get it done in 10 minutes. Okay, all right.
Especially because, get up at 4 and let me know what's happening outside.
Good evening, folks. I always like to start this out by thanking the board and the community for supporting this bus replacement plan. It's a vital part of what we do and for the safety of the kids, and it saves money as long as we're working within this plan. So we'll get this going so we can meet Doug's 10 minutes here. Quickly, we've got just some facts about us. We have 134 employees that are in and out of our building from about 5:15 in the morning till about 7:15 at night. We have 104 buses, and we also have 5 contract buses through the Dutchess County BOCES Cooperative. We cover 71 square miles throughout the district. Plus, we're traveling into other districts for private and parochial schools and some special needs schools. We're transporting 4,100 students. Many times that gets lost because we have the private and parochial. We always talk about the 3,900 or so that we have in the district, in our district buildings. We have another 200 to 300 kids that we're transporting outside of the district. We have 4,938 available seats in the buses. This is something we put up a couple of years ago, and I've been reducing this as we've gone from 72 passenger buses. Now we're dropping to 66 as we're replacing buses right now. So we backed out about 35 seats this year to change that number. We're transporting to 53 schools and 13 work sites daily. We have 84 bus routes. We chopped one off and then we ended up having to put it back. So I didn't put that up here. I forgot about that. And we got about 352 runs that the drivers are doing every day. We have about 7,000 route miles on a daily basis, and last school year, we did 622 sports runs, and we went about 38,000 miles, and we approximately travel 1.4 million miles every school year. Some of the mandates, these are the things that drive the cost for us, and one of them is the statutory maximum 15-mile radius for private and parochial students. By SED law, we're required to transport any child that's 15 miles from their home to the school of their choice. We also have a statutory requirement to do 50 miles for homeless students to the school of origin. So if they move out of our district, we become the school of origin. We have to transport them up to 50 miles if they choose to attend the Hyde Park schools. And school bus equipment, that's just stuff that's really causing the seatbelts on buses, for example. There's no law that says they have to wear them, but there's a law that says they have to be put in the buses when they're built. And we have fire suppression systems that come on the wheelchair buses now, and now there's some other things that are driving the cost, are video cameras. They're not required, but they're a necessity in today's society. They've helped us in a lot of ways, and it's also improved discipline. There's no doubt about that. Since we've had the cameras, our discipline problems have subsided a little bit. Why have a bus replacement program? The obvious thing, student safety. That's what this is all about. That's what we open our doors for every day. It's also an SED and a DOT recommendation that you have some kind of plan and you're replacing the older buses with newer stuff. The rust issues due to the increased salts and the way they take care of the roads today, it's hazardous. It just eats our equipment up. And the useful life of a bus basically is 10 years, folks. Our plan is a 12-year replacement plan, and we start seeing problems around 8-10 years, rust issues and more breakdowns, and newer buses improve service to students, obviously. Continuing with why have it, this is the big one. Other than the student safety, this is the big one for me. Avoid spending good money on bad. If our cars are nickel and diming us, our own personal vehicles, we're going to get something different that's a little more efficient. Financially, smaller increases to the debt service. This is something that we've talked about for years, that if we keep the replacement plan at level, the debt service will be level at all the time. This year, we got a nice surprise when I was talking with Linda about this. The bus age jumped from 54.9 last year to 57.6 this year, and a replacement plan allows our mechanics to do the daily preventative maintenance so that they stay run, instead of chasing after all the rust and the repairs as the vehicles get older. And we have a written updated plan, and I have that plan if anybody would like to see that. And we use it all the time. It's a working document, and that's how we get the buses that you see on the replacement tonight through that plan. This is just a picture of something they call a rail in a school bus. It goes underneath the bus from one side to the other. And as a bus gets to 8, 10, 11 years old, this is what it does. It deteriorates for the salt and all of the things, just the age of it. So here's how we repair that. This is a tube. It's a 1-inch tube, and it goes through they take the side of the bus off where that tube was rotted, and we push this thing through the rail and put it onto the other side, weld everything back up, and that's a manufacturer approved repair, and it's a DOT approved repair. So it's okay to do that, but that job takes about 12 or 14 hours for someone to do. And the guy that's doing this for us, John Kaba, he's just a phenomenal body guy, and he saves this district a lot of money on a daily basis doing things like that. And this is a step well, okay? What happens is it's in the element all winter. Salt comes in, all of that, and it just over time, it gets behind the rubber, the moisture, and then this is what we get, deterioration. This is the step before the top, and the other steps are just as bad as this. And then this is a job that John did.
Wow.
He repaired that, and that's what it came back to. It looks brand new. You know, that takes him about 8, maybe 10 hours, depending on how many of the steps he's got to repair at one point. So we spend a lot of time doing these kind of things that we could be using them for other things. Looking ahead, okay, now there's a piece here that we're talking about diesel fuel, we're talking about propane buses, and now there's something else in the mix, is a gas bus. I spoke a little bit about that last year. Now we'll have 3 things to look at. As we go, and here's one of the reasons we're there. The downtime and the expense of today, and the expensive repairs of today's diesel engine is just, it's out of this world. The downtime, I mean, we're getting a lot of stuff done on warranty, but there's so many things they're doing it, filters and things like that for the exhaust that are just eating us alive in time and downtime for buses. So there's one reason that I've had it with the diesel engine. I don't think propane is the way to go. I don't think that's going to be the fix-all for the industry, but the diesel is not going to be that either. So if we went to the propane buses, one of the needs we'd have to do was a fueling station. Well, if anyone has visited our compound, there is no place for a fueling station. We barely have enough room to get our vehicles parked in there, and without hitting mirrors and all of those things. So there's really no place within our compound to put another tank. And propane, there's got to be certain distances. It's a lot different than some of the other fuels in that regard. The use of the present gas and diesel tanks, if we were to go the gas way, with gas vehicles, we could actually take the 10,000 gallon, we have 2 5,000 gallon diesel tanks. We could, as we moved into the gas, we could just rotate the diesel out to we have a gas pump on the other side, a 6,000 gallon tank. We could actually move the gas and just rotate it as the fleet rotated, and you got more gasoline in the need, and you were using more gas than diesel. So there's a way you could just eventually just swap them tanks out at really no cost to the district, just notifying the DEC that we're switching the tanks. That would be it. Staff training, that's really minimal in the big picture. For drivers, there's a little bit of fueling training, very simple thing to do. Everybody that's got them is doing it. And there's also the mechanic training on that. And then the training on the diesel is a lot more. We're fortunate, we've got a couple of guys who are very good with the computer and can get getting some things done for us that we before had to send out. So that's a help, but again, there's staff training on the diesel, there's staff training on the propane, and there's really staff training, there's really not a whole lot on the gas engine for that piece of it. The initial vehicle cost, there's a big difference in the cost of these vehicles. A propane vehicle is approximately $12,000 more right now to purchase a propane versus our diesel buses right now. So and then where the gas is going to come in at about state contract price on a base unit for one of them, as I looked up, is about $90,000. We're paying, I think, on these buses right now, I think the buses that are going to show you tonight were $109,000, and the propane is somewhere in the neighborhood of about $102,000, but that's a base model. It's not with the certain things that we get. So that's a little bit of an issue, that the expense there, and then the fuel cost differences between the tanks, the different vehicle types. The gas is come down, it's lower than the diesel. The propane is lower than both, but yet the propane only gets about 4 miles to the gallon versus the diesel about 7 or 8, and pretty much the same with that for the gasoline engine. So, there's some other issues just between the fuel mileage on the propane too. So those are some decisions that got to be made on that. And I've looked at a lot of this, and I'm kind of leaning another way towards the gasoline. It just seems the right way for this district. Propane, a lot of our neighbors are using it. I don't think it's got to be a fit for that school district. I don't think it's a fit for us right now based on the fuel tanks and the things that I described here tonight. This is just the capital purchase history, what we've done over the years, since 98, 99. what we want to do is we want to see that those 9, 10s, we want to keep that plan right there. So again, the debt service is staying flat, where we can do that. The plan that we've got right now, when we worked this plan with Steve and Doug, when we did a lot of work at looking at this a few years ago, I did share with them when we went to this 12-year plan, we were going to have a little high side the first couple years. We were going to be 9 or 10 buses. That's kind of proved out as we've done that. I looked at next year on the form, we're looking at like 8 buses. And we got a bunch of years of 8 after that, and then we go to a year with 5 or 7. I'd like to even that 5 or 7 out as we work through it, but that's where we want to do. So the plan is kind of working as we've set it up to work. This is just, we've gone about, these buses have gone about 1 million miles that we're looking to replace, 1,316,000 miles in their careers from 2004 to 2017. They're starting to cost us money, okay? Every one of them, some of them are a little better than others, but they're all, the biggest issues we're having here, majority of these buses that are in here right now, we're all seeing them rust issues that we saw. We're doing some kind of rust work to them. We've got some engine work. Those numbers are going to increase before we get to June, the cost for that. So the recommendation is 9 66-passenger buses, $109,000. That you see the price there. That's down a little bit. That's down about $2,555 per bus. They rebid the state contract and the CPI. The combination of those things probably has lowered that a little bit. So that's what we're looking at, $982,000 for the buses, and then there's the state aid piece of it, the 57%, 57.6, so the cost about $416,464. This is a big bang for our buck when we look at it with the change of the lower prices this year right off the get-go. That doesn't take into fact it's probably going to drop at least another $9,000 or $10,000 on trade-ins. So depending on what was available and what they give us on the trade-in. So this year it looks like it's a pretty good bang for our buck for 9 buses, and you know, that's pretty much where, I was really surprised at that number when we did the calculations. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. I hope I made the 10 minutes.
Close enough.
Okay.
Close enough. I have a comment, tongue-in-cheek. Those rust things, aren't those the same ones I saw in 2003?
Not 3, probably about, I would say probably 2010, 11, that rail. And that's where we're still getting them.
Okay. Anybody? Perry?
Sure.
Yes, I figured.
And so did I.
Come on, George. So tell me why it is that propane buses are so right for other districts but not Hyde Park. And it can't be simply a matter of a propane tank, a storage tank. That, I mean...
I'm not sold on the grant for the fuel right now. They're getting good price on the fuel because of that federal grant. As we all know, federal grants have a way sometimes just saying bye-bye. The other thing is you're going to still have to purchase diesel buses, okay,
Absolutely.
or gasoline for trips.
For long trips, yep.
Where the gasoline, you wouldn't have to do that. You're similar mileage. The gas is readily available wherever you're going to go. Repair stuff, if you're going to start welding underneath the bus, there's got to be some different things. I'm told that there's tanks that have to be, you know, you have to drain the tank. It's to do some of that work, not all of it. So you have to be careful with that. And again, the price of the vehicle, Perry, that's a big thing to me. We're going to probably look at, I don't know, it's hard because I didn't put our options in it that we use, which is a very basic option. So we're probably looking at another 15,000 on top of that, or 10,000 anyway, for our options to be added into that, and that's just going to jack up the price of that vehicle. So
now, when you're looking at pricing, are you only looking at one brand of bus?
no, I'm looking basically right now. I'm looking at I've looked at Bluebird. I've looked at the IC. Those are the 2 big ones that I've looked at. And I use the state contract base pricing that I'm basing that off of right now. So that was 102 with that's just before you put any options in the vehicle.
The information that I've gotten, I mean, aside from the environmental
Right.
value, I mean, the numbers, and I work in Red Hook, you
Yep,
know that.
yep.
And we've got a pretty substantial fleet, and we're buying more propane buses every year. Arlington just made a huge purchase.
And they're making another one.
And making another purchase of propane buses. And one of the numbers that I'm seeing is maintenance cost
Right.
being much lower on propane buses than on diesel buses.
Oh, they are. That's one of the reasons I'm looking to move, to do
Yeah.
something, Perry. And
Yeah.
I think the difference for that is, for me, is just being in the business so long, and I know Jeff's been in it a long time. And so one of the things for me is that there's really no difference between the propane engine and the gasoline engine other than the fuel rail. They operate the exact same way. So you reap that same benefit from the gasoline bus, you know, the low maintenance that you do with the propane, but you get a little bit more mileage, and the price is 10 to 12,000 at a minimum cheap. It's probably 10 to 12 is what I'm looking at.
Anybody running
Right
fleet of
now-
gasoline buses right now?
This year is the first year they're starting to come out into right now. This is going to be the first big year they're getting it. I could have gone that way this year. I'm not a fan of the Bluebird bus, okay? I just, the service, one of the reasons I'm hearing the service issues, or Arlington struggled with some service issues on their propanes, when they needed to do that. Because that's, again, the vendor can't service the vehicle, really. They got to depend on the person that really built that vehicle. Whereas with another company that we're using, I'm really confident that they provide the best service out of all the school bus vendors right now. They're at our place whenever we call them. They do the warranty work. So it's just a really good place with them. And I think that's the biggest difference for me, is the cost between the gas and the propane. I agree, diesel needs to go. You'll never get that argument from me at this point with all the fighting that we're doing with it.
I mean, I just go on record. I think that we're missing an opportunity by not investing in the propane. I think it's environmentally, I think it's something that we should be doing. And historically, you know, we're seeing buses that have been out there. I think we've got, in Red Hook, we've got, I think, 8-year-old buses now, propane buses.
Right.
And maintenance records are phenomenal.
Right, and I
those
believe,
buses.
right, and I agree, Perry, I'm not going to disagree with that. I think the difference is the initial cost of the vehicle.
See, and that's the thing. Now I know that in Red Hook they run Bluebird buses. The difference in cost between propane and diesel, I thought actually the propane is less money than the diesel, and I don't know where the gas price is.
It is less, but what I'm saying is what I'm talking about is the initial investment. When you buy
That's what I'm
that
saying,
bus.
the initial investment. I
Right,
I understood the initial investment of propane being lower than diesel.
It is not.
Yeah.
Not from my understanding, and if you look at state contract, I don't think that would be correct. But because it is the highest of the three. And that's all I'm saying, is I'm looking at, we could probably get one extra bus for each. If we're going 8 buses a year, you could almost get one extra at the gas price versus the propane price. And you're pretty much going to have the same maintenance setup, because they operate identically engine-wise.
As I've offered before, I'd love to have you come up to Red Hook one day, and I'll buy you lunch, and we'll take some time and talk, and drive some propane buses.
I drove them,
See if we can make.
but I would like the lunch part of it. We'll come talk. I have no problem with that, Perry. It's just, I just think sometimes, I'm trying to save this district money. That's my goal all the time. As we're looking.
I'm not questioning that.
Right.
I just think that, you know, there's school districts out there that are doing some good things with propane buses, and I think that we owe it a good hard look.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more thing, and I'll get out of here, is that then we're going to be into getting rid of all these. We're going to have the rollover of parts, different vendors. You know, there's a lot of different other pieces of that. You guys have established that and have done that at Red Hook. It's a lot different. You know, we're looking at 104. We're looking at almost 70 buses that we'd have to switch to propane.
I would never suggest that the entire fleet would be propane. I think you've got to maintain a mix, because you've got to have that long. There is not a network of propane filling stations out there yet that I would suggest that we do away with all the diesel.
Well, the other part of it is that the gasoline is also a clean burning fuel today. They're using that as an alternative fuel today. They're talking about gasoline as that too, so there's probably not a whole lot of difference there. I haven't really got into that piece, and that's something that I probably should look at as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. George, before you go, anybody else, any other board member have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on the propane bus issue. Yeah, I don't think that there was enough detail in this presentation to fully comprehend the detailed analysis that would have to happen in order to make a decision of that magnitude. I understand what you're saying, where initial purchase price of a bus is more expensive if it's propane. It sounds like that, at least currently, given government subsidies, the fuel price over the life of the bus would compensate for that. Do I have that incorrect?
There's some truth to that, okay? But the other part of that is, there's a grant out there for 50, it's probably down to 37 cents a gallon now, that there's a subsidy for that. And that's been dropping yearly. So, you know, what happens when that goes away? What happens when there's more propane, more call for propane? Is that going to rise where the other is? But when you're looking at 4 miles per gallon, Steve, versus 7 or 8, that's almost twice. So if I'm using, right now, I'm using about, I don't know, 100,000 gallons, just say on the diesel side, okay? That's gonna double with that, and is that money going to equal out? You know, I did that. I did more of an analysis last year. I had a presentation with that last year that showed it. Perry's numbers were a little bit different. I used early January numbers, but those were from vendors that were giving me those prices, and they were a little bit, parts of it worked for the propane were cheaper. Once you put the fuel subsidy in, the diesel was cheaper. I mean, the propane was cheaper. You take that away, the subsidy, the diesel was cheaper. So they're right there. They each have their own expenses as the bus gets a little older, but there's no doubt about it that the propane is cheaper than the diesel. There's no doubt. And I don't think there's going to be much difference in cost with the maintenance on a gasoline bus versus a propane bus.
Yeah, I guess it haunts me when Perry says that other districts find it an attractive financial incentive, and I have trouble reconciling that piece of information with the trust and respect that I've developed for your judgment. And you and I have sat in the same room and looked at the same data several times, so I have a lot of faith in your decision-making process. So I guess what I'm asking for is at least a detailed review of what would one bus look like to purchase, or if you could send me the presentation from last year, just to refresh my memory on this.
Okay.
I don't want to burn a lot of your time.
No, please.
But I also don't want to miss an opportunity here if we're missing something.
Right, and I just personally, I just don't think that that's going to be the industry fix-all, the propane. I just, it hasn't, the stuff that I've read and all of that, I'm going to get the same thing at the gas end, but it's just that subsidy kind of worries me a little bit. And then again, I don't know what we're going to do with a tank. If I can get a new compound out of the tank, we'll get diesel next year. But that is an issue too. So. Yeah,
that would be a major investment to get a propane tank and filling facility, right?
I think there's ways you can get past that. There's subsidies for that. You can get a tank. I'm more talking about the room. You know, there's propane companies out there that'll set you right up with that. There's not an issue with that. That's not the problem.
Be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would think that the more issue is the fueling station. The room for the fueling station is what I'm getting would be at.
Oh, okay.
We just don't have the room in the facility anywheres. And, you know, if we could figure that out, maybe we can look at it that way.
Expand into
Okay.
All right, so I'll get that stuff to you. I can give you the price of it, based on our specs and all of that, and give you the price of the vehicles. Even a propane vendor will tell you they're $10,000 to $12,000 more. They will tell you that. I spoke with enough of them. I had a guy in my office last week talking about this. It's $10,000 to $12,000.
The last question I have on the topic. A couple of years ago, the cost of propane spiked because of the cold winter. So would we have seen that kind of spike in purchasing for transportation? Or are there two
They're
separate streams.
Two
of-
separate things. The diesel fuel just rose with everything else. As you were seeing it at our pumps for regular stuff, the diesel and the gasoline have stayed pretty much the same. Diesel's like 4 cents more a gallon the last deliveries we had. They're about $1.70 something a gallon right now
Yeah.
for gas, and $1.76 for diesel, something like that.
Yeah, so that's the fuels that we use now.
Right.
Would we have been subject to that spike in propane if we had propane buses at the time?
Well, there would have been state contract price plus the subsidy. So
Okay.
however that would have worked out, we would have got a little less because we're not paying the same tax being the school district.
All right, so we probably would have been protected somewhat.
Yeah, somewhat protect. No worse than I think the gas or the diesel
Okay.
situation.
All right, thank you, George.
Anyone else? Thanks, George.
All right, thanks.
That brings us to Elliot's presentation. You've got a lot of ground to make up here. I would recommend next time get it higher in the agenda so you can, but we're counting on you to zip through this.
You're encouraging me to talk fast. That's not a problem. I'm willing to share my minutes with George anytime. You're welcome, buddy. And I'm not even asking for money tonight, which is awesome. So good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I was asked to come in today to give you an update on the Haviland Heating System project. About this time 3 years ago, 2014, we had some pretty major issues with the Haviland heating system. We learned that after putting in new boiler plants for most of the fall of the 2013 year, my first full year with the district, we figured out that the heating plant in our second largest building kind of sort of stopped working almost altogether. So at that time in January, I was asked to provide some sort of documentation to explain what happened to the heat at Haviland. We just paid $4.5 million for new boilers around the district, including at this building, and now the heat doesn't work, so tell us why. So here's the why. I gave you a flow chart to show exactly what parts of the heating plant were replaced under capital work and which ones were not. So I call them red, but they're kind of pinkish boxes here will show that we replaced our boilers. We also replaced hot water supply lines both in the parking lot and within the A and B sections. For those that don't recall, Haviland Middle School was built in 3 pieces: the beautiful original Art Deco building that looks like this building's big brother, and then its smaller siblings that came afterwards. The A section being the second one that was built, and the B section the one that can join the two together. So in their infinite wisdom of not wanting to put a second boiler plant in, they decided to run heat from the main building to the extensions via these hot water lines that decided to perforate and give us the Haviland Hot Springs a few years ago. So we replaced those, we replaced the boilers, but all these other boxes are things that we did not replace at that time. Most importantly, the heat exchangers, which turn steam into hot water, the pumps that drive that hot water across the campus to the other side, the supply lines within the building, all original. And when you get to the other side, the small copper lines, or that were black iron and steel lines within the building that delivered that hot water to the very old, very inefficient heat exchangers and air handlers in the A and B section. So what we tagged here is our areas of primary concern. This is the stuff that needed to be fixed immediately. The board was gracious enough to release the repair reserve funds, and we spent about $80,000 that winter replacing the branch supply lines within the A and B sections. So these are, after we did these on the capital work, the big 4-inch pipes and the 2.5-inch pipes, these were the 1-inch and 2-inch lines that went to the air handlers that fed the building. At that time, there were 7 air handlers for the entire A and B section and a couple of unit ventilators, and not a whole lot of ability to control how much heat we pumped through that building, where and when. So, in our emergency capital projects for $3 million, we did the phase 4A, 1, 2, and 3 in 3 pieces. First, we did the circulation pumps, which took care of this here. Then we did doors and windows, because when you do capital work to a mechanical system, you're required to upgrade some parts of the doors and windows and the structure of the building to current HVAC and fire codes. So that happened, was substantially completed over the summer of 2015. And just this fall, we completed the major part of the project, which was the mechanical system upgrades, addressing all of this stuff right here and the heat exchangers. So at this time, everything on this chart has been replaced and completed. Come on, give me something. Thank you. It was was nerve-wracking being up here the first time I had to present this. I'm excited to come in and say, we fixed it, sort of. So, there's some left over, we'll get to that. But anyway, so right now, phase 4A 1 and 2 are completed, they're closed out. Phase 4A 3 is substantially completed, which is a fancy way of saying that the work is done and we're just tying up the paperwork. All of the HVAC equipment and infrastructure in A and B sections of Haviland has been replaced. I'll say that again. All of the HVAC equipment and infrastructure in Haviland's A and B sections have been replaced. These are the parts of the building that failed, and I want to remind everybody that this was and is an emergency capital project. The failure of this heating plant caused us to not have school days in 2014. It was a highly sensitive emergency. It was a no-frills project, and we did absolutely what had to be done, and nothing more. So I'll get to that in a moment. This project was completed on time and within the budget. One of the things that we were able to do, though, is replace how we control the entire campus, A, B, and C sections. And those new controls look something like this. Again, I said before that we had 7 air handlers throughout the A and B sections. This is kind of small. I wish we had a bigger screen. But this is the upper A section of Haviland. So these are rooms 7, 8, 9, and 10. This is A23 down here, A22. So for those of you that are familiar with the building, that upper A section hallway, the cafeterias would be somewhere over here. Within this stretch of classrooms, we used to have 4 air handlers that supplied heat to these rooms in clusters. So these rooms were all together, these rooms were all together, these and these were all together. Couldn't change your temperature from your neighbor. You were kind of stuck with wherever your cluster was being delivered, that level of heat and hot air. Now you can see every blue square is a heat supplying unit. So we have unit ventilators in every single classroom. We have fan coil units throughout the corridors. And within each one of those, or alongside each one of those, is a room sensor which tells us all kinds of information about that room. You can see that here. I've got temperature, set point, heating output, structure. Here's a little graphic of the machine learning to show the heat and the air flowing through it. So I can really remotely and both on site through a mobile device, tablet, laptop, we can walk through and see every temperature set point in every classroom in the A and B section, which is pretty cool. Also, each teacher or staff member has the ability to adjust the temperature in their space by moving the wall stat up or down within a given range of temperature. So if that's not working, you need to let me know. I see faces, that's cool. We'll talk after the meeting. My time is limited. So what's left? Okay, I said that we did everything in the A and B sections because that's where the emergency was. What we have not done is the mechanical equipment in the original C section because that stuff still works. Does it work great? It's like 80 years old. It works well, considering it's 80 years old. I hope I work that well when I'm 80 years old. But it could be upgraded. It could be modified. When we come back to do a capital project in the future, especially something at Haviland Middle School, I will probably be standing up here saying we need to replace the HVAC equipment in the C section at Haviland. And when I say heating equipment in Haviland, I don't want anybody to get mad at me. So I want to be very clear about what hasn't been done yet. So that's your air handlers in your C section auditorium, the C gym, and all of your classrooms and offices in the C wing. Those items are currently on our building condition survey because that was one of the questions that's probably going to come up next. And has it reached its end of useful life? Probably in the next 5 years. That's how it's rated on the BCS. But we are able to keep that stuff going. And again, because it wasn't an emergency need, it was not addressed under the emergency project. So that's it. I think I did it okay. Any questions?
I don't know. Anybody on the board have a question? Thanks, Elliot.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Gold star.
The amazing part about it is after you get that all done, you gave us the warmest winter we've had in how many years?
Doug, if I could also comment, maybe this comes under a little bit of late pride.
Sure.
I had the pleasure of seeing Elliot do a presentation in Albany yesterday at the State Critical Issues Summit that was held at SED.
Okay.
And Elliot and there were 2 other facilities directors and an architect that gave a presentation on a variety of issues, including, I think Elliot's focus was data-driven decision-making. So
Well done.
good presentation to directors from throughout the state.
Excellent.
Great.
Excellent.
Very nice.
Oh.
You made us proud.
And we should be.
Okay, that brings us to public participation. May I have a motion to enter public participation, please?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? We're now in public participation. If anybody would like to address the board, you have to run all the way over to the other side of the building, the room, but we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, good evening. My name is Lorianne Billis. I'm the librarian here at Violet Avenue. And I know that you were there eating and hopefully enjoying the space. If you had noticed, there was a wooden chair by the desk, and on that chair was a stack of books. If books are not in a Follett box or a permabound box, then they're not coming from a school budget. Half that stack, more than half that stack, were donations from a private citizen who bought books at Oblong in Rhinebeck. And Oblong then contacted me and said, aren't you a Title I school? We have some donations for Title I schools. I got a bag of books, and Haviland will get a bag of books from Oblong that were bought by a private citizen who wanted to donate to Title I schools in our area. I also wanted to point out that Oblong was the one who allowed us to get Nick Gruel in to talk to our students. So please, when you're out there in the world, support your independent booksellers because they do play a big role in supporting their local communities. And I just wanted to point that out for public record. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorianne.
Thank you. Yeah. Would anybody else like to address the board? May I have a motion to exit public participation, please?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That brings us to mid-year review of board goals, which we're not going to put up there, but everybody should be able to bring them up. Why don't I just run down through them real quick? And okay, first, academics receive semi-annual updates regarding how Common Core outcomes have been integrated into instructional practices. We had
One in the fall
one in the-
and one scheduled for the spring.
Yeah, so we're halfway there. Receive timely updates of the Coherence Planning Initiative, which we've been getting. It says 6 times, but I think we'll handle that. Develop a plan for financial literacy education by the end of the current school year. I don't know how that's going at all.
Moving.
It's actually going well.
It's going well?
Yeah.
All right, well, you got until the end of the year, so that's good. Board administrative, conduct a board retreat. We did that. It was very,
Doug, can we back up on that last one? If we're not going to get it till the end of the year, how are we going to get it into the budget, or there's no plans to put it in the budget for next year?
We're not looking at, right now, we've, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but you're gone, not gone, but the plan that we're looking at now, we would not need more resources other than our normal curriculum writing, that we may need to spend some money on updating curriculum.
Thank you.
okay. Down to budget and administration. Create a budget to maintain many of the programs as possible, given the tax cap. We are in the process of doing that, so I say we're done. We did do the focus more closely on actuals rather than projected rollovers. Thank you, Linda, on that, because that's been a big difference. The second one, receive a report about the impacts of the 2016 administration reorganization. We had that, and what's not there, but we also had a reorganization of the space in the administration building, which we'll see how that works. That seems to be pretty good. For community, conduct an expo during the budget vote. We're on track to do that, I think.
So I was relying heavily on cooperating with Debbie on that.
Oops.
I haven't had a
Okay.
chance to talk to Jay about it yet. My initial thought was that she's probably going to be real busy coming up to speed
Okay.
on her responsibilities, and so
We could use the old one from last year.
we could.
What? Okay.
The thing that made it
Okay.
attractive.
Under discussion.
Yeah, just one last point there. The thing that made it really attractive this year was doing it on Chromebooks to take all the work out of it.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I'll get with Jay on that.
Okay. As I looked at the second one under community, I seem to remember that that's not what we said. It says here, prior to the beginning of the testing cycle, provide information to families about the process of test refusal. I thought we changed that to why, to provide information as to why test results were important to the improvement of the school district. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I didn't think we actually, I should have wrote this a long time ago, but I didn't think we left it with that. But it is there. That's what it was voted on. So we haven't exactly done that yet, right?
Yeah,
actually,
it's, go ahead, Aviva.
It's actually there. It's right in the quick link section along the left, and it's been there, and it continues to
Okay.
be there.
Yeah, I
And
thought
we've
that-
sent the first few letters out to
And I
families.
thought that is what we said. We wanted to be able to
Yeah, I
have it
recall that.
available to people, and that's what it was, I mean, so that they could get it. It wasn't a statement as to where we
Yeah.
stood on it.
And it's there. So,
Right,
Yeah.
it's there.
I mean, it's a personal choice, and you have to respect people's choices, but if you don't get enough data to make decisions on, it makes it harder to make decisions, or we just make decisions based on no data. So, okay. Moving along. Facilities. Receive 2 formal presentations for energy. We got the first one already. The second one will be in May, I think. Receive a formal presentation on the status of the heating system updates.
Timely.
Got that one?
Check.
All right. Policy, review all the policy of financial natures by the beginning of January. We did do that before Debbie left, so that's done. And in technology, received 2 updates regarding how new technology has been integrated into instructional practice. We got that from Rick. I thought actually the Haviland presentation by the math teacher was more informative as to how things were actually working. I was very impressed with the young lady. She obviously jumped in with, a great deal of enthusiasm.
That wasn't a mistake. That was not a mistake.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the way it was planned.
I'm sure it wasn't. The Technology Committee shall review all technology-related policies annually. I think that has been done also, but I'm not sure if they all were. They did some.
Been a little busy.
Okay, it's still a goal
It's
then.
not done yet.
Okay. Receive a report about the status of the HMS one-on-one initiative by January. We did get that.
Yep.
And that's the end.
Doug, I think did we skip number 4 under academics?
On which?
Academics.
First group. Under academics.
Oh, I did.
Maintain or increase
You're
the four-year
absolutely,
program.
usually it's Perry that keeps me honest, but now we have a new
Slide.
contender.
I'm awake tonight, so.
Yeah. Yes, 4, maintain or increase the 4-year cohort graduation rate of 80%.
Our current graduation rate, as it was recently reported, is 84%.
Right. Right.
Exceeded your goal.
Which is really good based on the factors involved in how they say what a cohort is. We get charged for people that leave or if we're suspended from school, and, or all these things that they count.
Moved to our district
So,
2 weeks before
I mean, you
graduation.
can have a goal of 100%, but that's almost, well, that is impossible. That's impossible to do. 84, on the other hand, is very, very good, and I would like to see that, continue to go up. I don't think it'll go up as quickly as it had in the last 2 years, but thank you for,
Actually, yeah,
thank you for
over a
bringing that
3-year
up.
period of time, it's really
Okay.
been on a trajectory based on a lot of the initiatives, and the initiatives are not only at the high school, they're the initiatives at the elementary schools, the middle school, and the high school. It's been a long process, but
Well, obviously it's working.
yeah.
Things are working. Some of the problems that contribute to a lower graduation rate are things like student involvement, and that really has to start, in my opinion, in the elementary school. And if they have a problem in the middle school, it's already too late. And if it's in the high school, I was just talking to Rick this morning, he's got a real problem. They're been that way for a number of years, so.
I just wanted to also point out with the graduation rate at 84%, that is for the 4-year cohort.
Not 5.
We educate students until they're 21, and so we also have 5th and 6th year cohort students. So if our 4-year graduation rate is at 84, our overall graduation rate for what the law permits us to keep students, especially our students with disabilities, is much higher. And for a student with a disability to take 5 or 6 years to graduate high school is not at all something unusual. And as we heard at our state conference, ask the colleges what their 4-year graduation rate is these days. And so one of the things that we pressed upon the commissioner, Aviva and I were up there just this week,
I'll tell you what it is, 2 and 5. 2 out of 5.
2 out of 5. Oh,
in 4 years.
In
yeah.
4 years. And one of the things that we impressed upon the commissioner was, we know that there's a federal requirement to report the 4-year graduation cohort, and okay, but where New York State chooses to publish and post the 5th and 6th year of that same cohort graduation rate could be in a much more visible and better place.
Right.
So I just wanted to point out that that fact.
And to our
Okay.
credit, or to her credit, other states don't even report or gather the information on 5 and 6 year, and New York does. So there has been a commitment to that for some time.
Yeah, she was definitely open to it, don't get me wrong. She's been more responsive than
Yeah.
any recent commissioner.
Okay, that brings us to unfinished business, which there is none. And then, may I have a motion for number 10, the consent agenda, please?
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion on that? There's no personnel matters that we have to talk about? No. All right, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That brings us, should be, to special ed. Let me get down there. May I have a motion for 11.1 special education placements, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, Dan?
I recommend its adoption as presented, although there are some questions that are being investigated regarding timings of the actual individual student plans. But the plans themselves need to be accepted.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. May I have a motion for Proposition 3, it'll be on the ballot this year, for allowing us to have a student board member.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that? I'll just say for the public is that the state requires us once every 2 years to ask the voters to allow us to have a student board member, which I think has worked out very well for us in the first 2 years. So we've, first 2 have set a high standard. Are they already working on your replacement?
I believe so. So the teachers are usually the ones that kind of
Right.
elect a group. But I do think that like having a board member, a student rep, is pretty important. As for me, so far it's been a pretty great learning experience. I haven't really done something like this before, but it's been a great learning process, and I'm starting to get the hang of it. So And I think it's
Someday you can be a real board member,
yeah.
Next year.
like next year.
He doesn't look unreal.
Yeah. A couple of my friends do have plans in the future to return and
That's
be part
nice.
of the board. Yeah.
Okay. We did, all in favor? That's right, we didn't vote. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. May I have a motion for 11.3, remove deputy purchasing agent assignment? As we learned during our audit, that position is not needed.
It's not allowed.
It's not allowed. Well, I just didn't want to put it that way.
So
Yeah,
moved.
all right.
Second.
Any discussion on that?
Yeah. Why is it that it's not allowed?
Linda?
The
Yeah.
separation of duties, I don't know, Linda, go for
Yeah,
it.
so the board,
It is a separation.
yeah, the board actually assigns their responsibility for purchasing to the purchasing agent, so they're only allowed to assign that to one person. If the purchasing agent were to be out for a while, if he was sick or on an extended leave, the board could meet again and they could appoint somebody else.
Right, and if we do that, then we have, when they come back, we have to rescind
Right.
the temporary, and then, yeah.
Or alternatively, we could perform that responsibility ourselves.
If you want,
I thought that there was a provision for, under circumstance, to be able to have a second person appointed.
Yeah, I thought so too. That's why we had the appointment.
Yeah, that's what
But
we're-
the internal auditor said it wasn't appropriate.
right,
Conjecture, I wouldn't have.
we did vote on that, right? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting.
Okay,
Really interesting.
I think we need to vote.
may I have a motion? No, we did. I thought we did vote.
No, we didn't
Oh, we
vote.
did? I asked the clerk. She told me we voted.
Oh, okay, through you right
All in
after
favor?
she's-
Hasn't reached.
Opposed? Thank you. Jeez, you guys are so dumb. I have a motion for 11.4, 3214 hearing officer alternate.
So moved.
We got a second? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that?
Yeah, how often do we do that when we put a hearing officer in, that we put in the a superintendent, an assistant superintendent?
What we really should do is at the reorg, always list an in-house person as a hearing officer, because, in fact, I just discussed this with some of my colleagues around the county, hearing officers are extremely hard to find. We've been very fortunate. Generally, they're retirees, and right now, the two retirees that we're using are traveling more and more and more, so we should always have an in-house person appointed, and technically, the superintendent or any of the superintendents could be the alternate hearing, or could be identified as a hearing officer, not even an alternate. So I think as practice, we should just remember to put one of our own employees there on the reorg.
Okay, but does it happen very often that it happens that we're having to use our superintendent for the hearing?
This is the
There.
first time this year, and I think, when was the last time you did one? 3 years
I've
ago?
only done a couple over 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Wow. This time, may I have a motion to enter public participation, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Well, those of you who are left, anybody would like to speak to the board? No? You come to the, going once, going twice? May I have a motion to close public participation, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. There are no other matters deemed necessary to the board for tonight, anyway. Board subcommittee reports. We had an audit committee meeting. I don't know, Dan, you want to talk about that?
Well, the audit committee met and reviewed the recommendations of our internal auditor and the package presented to us by Linda. We approved and will be presented to the board for adoption in the next meeting.
All right. Any other Perry, was there a,
Yeah, there was a Dutchess County School Board Association. Interestingly enough, we had a discussion about superintendent reviews, annual reviews. And of the 13-member districts, it's interesting that there's a variety of
I'm not
different
surprised.
vehicles being used
Not
for
surprised.
review. I've been told that we're going to get an electronic copy of each of those that perhaps we might want to look through and see if there's something of value there
In the future.
we could pick up on.
Okay.
Also, just want to make a point at Duchess BOCES, there's going to be a public forum on the Every Student Succeeds Act. This is Thursday, tonight, March 9th. Okay, so.
Was it good?
I knew there was a reason why I wasn't going.
Thanks, Barry. Any other?
No, we didn't have a district leadership team, but I did want to make sure we thank, there's a lot of staff here tonight, and we appreciate the support. Anita, thank you. The building looks fantastic, and we do appreciate when staff comes out. So I know it's a late night for you and an early morning.
And there was a planned meeting for the special education and E&L committee. That meeting had to be delayed to a change in schedules of some of the members, and it's going to be held before the end of the month? I forget what the date was.
Somewhere in the
Jay?
20s, I'll have to look. Yes, toward the end of the month.
Yeah.
2 weeks away, I think.
Okay. That brings us to upcoming meetings and happenings in the district. Friday and Saturday, this Friday, tomorrow, and Saturday, March 10th and 11th. 7 p.m. spring musical, Once Upon a Mattress. You'll like it. You know, it was very well done, and it was the first one today, so it's...
I'd like to just mention about that, too, that if you come, you'll get to see our salutatorian actually conducting the pit orchestra.
Oh. Oh,
And then there is a
Chiara
Sunday
Di
performance
Matteo,
also,
yeah.
Doug.
all right. There is also a matinee on Sunday,
Right.
March 12th, at 2 p.m. And our next board meeting is Thursday, March 23rd, 7 o'clock. The location has changed. It will now be at Netherwood School. So let me repeat that. The next board meeting will be at Netherwood on March 23rd. There is no need for an executive session. So may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion there? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming, and have a good evening.